Tonight, political protests and cries for liberation. Iranians continue their push for change. The deadly response from the regime as the Trump administration weighs the potential for U.S. involvement. Plus, Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado heads to Washington. The high-stakes meeting and congressional efforts to put the clamps on future U.S. operations in the region. And the fight over transgender athletes in women's sports heads to the High Court. The case is at the center of the debate and the potential nationwide effect. Plus, delivering hope to Minneapolis.
They're unreached, not for lack of churches, because there's a church on every corner, but there's a lack of desire to reach the people that we're reaching.
The ministry to bring light and love to the forgotten. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
Help is on its way. That is the message President Trump is sending to Iranians tonight as deadly protests rock the regime. Good evening, I'm Jenna Browder.
And it is good to have Jenna back. In Washington, I am John Jessup. Well, President Trump is telling the demonstrators to keep protesting. Today, his national security team met at the White House to discuss possible options for intervention in Iran.
It comes as we hear about reports of slaughter by the Islamic Republic cracking down on these mass anti-government protests. National security correspondent Caitlin Burke joins us now with the latest. Caitlin, is the country still under a communication blackout tonight?
John, Jenna, the short answer is yes, although some people sent texts and made international calls briefly early this morning. The Associated Press reported receiving several calls from Tehran during that time, witnesses talking about large numbers of anti-riot police, Revolutionary Guard members, and other security patrolling the streets. Even so, mass demonstrations continue as the people of Iran call for freedom.
Literally millions pouring out on the streets. People are saying, this is it. We're at the end of the rope. We're at the end of the line. And the question that I keep getting from folks in Iran is, President Trump, you've said you're going to come and help us. We're getting slaughtered. Where are you?
Monday, the Trump administration stating diplomacy is always the first option. Then today, the president posting on Truth Social, urging the Iranian people to continue protesting and to, quote, take over your institutions. He also announced the cancellation of all meetings with Iranian officials until the killing of protesters stops, adding help is on the way. Iranian-American journalist Carmel Malamed telling CBN News the true death toll from within the country is staggering.
My sources have been telling me that it's a slaughterhouse. There are rivers of blood. That's what my source was saying in Tehran alone. A lot of the regime's forces have been perched on top of buildings and in many cases mowing down people from above. Snipers from inside of buildings have been shooting protesters.
Despite the danger, protesters believing this is the final battle.
There's a lot of hope. They're saying, we're not giving up. We've got nothing to lose. They've got a finite number of bullets, but our numbers of people are way higher.
Middle East expert Eli Kohanim, a former U.S. Deputy Special Envoy to combat anti-Semitism, is watching for reports of specific escalation. For example, striking workers and shutting down Tehran's Grand Bazaar.
The bazaar, which is considered kind of the heart place of the economy in Iran, comparable to, let's say, our Wall Street, is the bazaar in Iran. So if you can imagine in the United States, if Wall Street were to shut down, the effect of that, that's what we're looking for in Iran.
AP reports shopkeepers have been ordered by security forces to remain open no matter what. Kohanim says any international military intervention could be the final straw for the regime, who she believes is the weakest it's ever been.
Again, they're coming out of the 12-day war very exposed. They have no air coverage. Their missile capacity has been completely, mostly depleted. Their currency has hit a historically low, which is very low. And you've got this uprising within the country.
As the situation in Iran reaches a boiling point, the White House also managing the aftermath of the Venezuela operation, which resulted in the arrest of Nicolas Maduro. Opposition leader Maria Corina Machado is now expected to visit the White House Thursday. The meeting comes as tension grows between Venezuela's acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, and President Trump, who's made clear the U.S. intends to run the country at least temporarily. John, Jenna?
Caitlin, circling back to Iran, has President Trump done anything to ramp up pressure on the regime?
He has. On Monday, he announced a 25% tariff on any countries who trade with Iran and then try to do business with the U.S. Unrelated, but one other thing that's important to mention, the State Department has issued a new travel advisory for Iran, warning all Americans to leave the country immediately. John, Jenna?
Sounds pretty ominous. CBN National Security Correspondent Caitlin Burke. Thank you so much, Caitlin. Meanwhile, Congress is trying to exert its authority by limiting the president's ability to launch a military strike without its consent.
Yeah, lawmakers are also working on a plan to fund the government before the January 30th deadline. CBN's Michelle London is tracking the latest from Capitol Hill. London, what is the most important thing this week?
John, Jenna, good evening to you. The top priority here is avoiding another shutdown. This evening, senators are actively working on a major spending package after voting last night to advance 3 bills. Majority Leader John Thune aims to pass the smaller appropriations piece this week, although lawmakers continue to threaten amendments, specifically for climate and science funding, which could potentially delay a full passage until late January. Democrat Senator Patty Murray says this legislation would help Americans afford their electric bills, enjoy clean drinking water, and prevent flooding in vulnerable areas around the country. Now, senators hope to finish the appropriations package and war powers resolution before next week's recess. If this passes, that resolution would give Congress final authority over foreign military actions. Senator Susan Collins joined 4 other Republicans voting with Democrats against Trump's wishes to discharge the war powers resolution. In a statement, Collins said while she does support the operation to seize Nicolas Maduro, she does not support entering into any long-term military involvement in Venezuela or Greenland without specific congressional authorization. Following the recent involvement by the Trump administration in Venezuela, lawmakers have expressed concerns on its legality, along with implications of military action. John, Jenna?
London, I know that there's another issue on Capitol Hill. This one involves the investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. Republicans announced that they are pursuing an attempt to hold former President Bill Clinton in contempt of Congress. What's the latest there?
Well, that's a good question. Representative James Comer, who chairs the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, is leading this investigation. The latest is that he told reporters Clinton failed to testify today on the case under subpoena. Take a listen.
Jeffrey Epstein visited the White House 17 times while Bill Clinton was president. I've been in Congress 9 years. I think I've been to the White House 9 times in 9 years. Epstein was in the White House double the amount of time that I was under one president. And then we know that Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's plane somewhere around 27 times after the presidency.
And John, Jenna, while Comer says no one is accusing the former president of any wrongdoing, he is also threatening contempt against former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton if she refuses to appear before the same committee tomorrow as requested. Meanwhile, back in July, subpoenas were approved for 10 people, and both Clintons were on that list. John, Jenna?
Okay, Capitol Hill correspondent Michelle London. London, thank you. In other news, inflation cooled slightly last month, according to a new government report out today. Prices falling for gas and used cars.
Yeah, but still, grocery prices jumped 0.7% in December from the previous month, a sign that food costs remain elevated. The news comes as global central bankers rally behind Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell after he confirmed the Department of Justice launched an investigation into the agency.
In a rare joint statement, central bank leaders from Europe, the UK, Canada, and other countries defended Powell, calling him a, quote, respected colleague. They also stressed the importance of keeping central banks independent and free from political pressure. The investigation centers on a $2.5 billion renovation of the Fed's headquarters and Powell's related testimony to Congress. Powell says the case stems from political disagreements with the White House over interest rates. Today, Trump called Powell incompetent.
Coming up, the Supreme Court takes on transgender athletes in sports. The landmark cases that could reshape school and Olympic athletic competition when Faith Nation returns.
Welcome back. A landmark case before the Supreme Court could set new rules for transgender athletes in school sports.
Today, the justices heard a case about a West Virginia law banning transgender girls from girls' and women's sports teams. A federal appeals court ruled the law discriminates on the basis of sex. West Virginia officials contend it's necessary to protect athletes' safety and fairness in competition. The justices appeared likely to uphold the ban. So far, 29 states, along with the U.S. Olympic Committee and the NCAA, forbid transgender athletes from competing on sports teams inconsistent with their biological sex. Well, joining us now is Macy Petty with Concerned Women for America. Macy, welcome to Faith Nation.
Great to have you with us, Macy. So, I know you were actually at the court today. Were you able to listen on any of the oral arguments, and what was your takeaway?
I was actually right outside of the court with hundreds and hundreds of female athletes. We all gathered together in support to show the public just what this issue is about. It's about female athletes. It's about fairness and making sure fair and safe competition is available for everyone. So while I wasn't able to listen to all of the arguments, I was able to hear some clips, and it seems promising so far. Of course, if the justices were to take a fair and truly blind approach to the law, that they would see a really undeniable 9-0 decision. This should be really simple. This is argued on equal protection grounds, which I think is pretty ironic if you ask me, because this athlete is not asking for equal protection. He is asking for actually exemption from the rules of the game that would allow him to compete on women's teams, even though clearly as a man he should be competing on the men's teams.
Macy, I know this is an issue that hits close to home for you as a former NCAA volleyball athlete who competed with a biological male. Can you tell us more about your experience that ultimately led you to CWA, but the experience back in college sports that led you here?
Yeah, I would be happy to. I was a middle schooler who dreamed of playing college volleyball one day, so worked for hours and hours every day, trying to get faster, increase my vertical, all of these things to woo over the college scouts when I was eventually in high school and had the opportunity to try and show them why I, more than any other female athlete, should have a spot on their team and maybe even get an athletic scholarship. But when I finally had the opportunity to compete in front of these college scouts, instead they saw a male athlete just continue to slam the ball over and over in our faces. And this was, 6 or 7 years ago now, so I was really confused. This was obviously cheating. But USA Volleyball and these other governing bodies did nothing to stop this cheating and allowed him to continue competing as a male in the women's category. So that's when I joined Concerned Women for America, who had already been fighting this issue for several years. They were really ahead of the curve. And heard from so many people, lawmakers and others, who said we were making this up, we were alarmists, this wasn't a real issue. But today the Supreme Court finally took our concerns seriously, and I'm really grateful for that after years of trying to fight people like the NCAA from the inside who didn't want anything to do with this issue and did not want to protect female athletes.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a big issue and a growing issue. To your point, Macy, CWA found that thousands of gold medals and hundreds of thousands of dollars in prize money and scholarship money have been awarded to trans athletes participating in women's sports. Right now, there's a piece of legislation moving through the House. It's called the Protection of Women in Olympic and Amateur Sports Act. Macy, would this bill help to address this issue of fairness as it relates to medals and scholarship money?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I just said, this issue goes beyond just high school and college sports. For me, it was during my recruiting process. For many, it's when they're trying to compete in the Olympics. It's far beyond just scholastic sports. And that's exactly what this bill addresses. Like you said, it's the Protection of Women in Olympic and Amateur Sports Act, carried by Congressman Greg Steube out of Florida. And all of these governing bodies, those like USA Volleyball, who was responsible for my situation, need to be held accountable. They are certified through Congress under this, it's called the Ted Stevens Act, which certifies these national governing bodies through the U.S. Olympic Committee. And so we need to make sure that if we're giving them the congressional stamp of approval, that they are doing their due diligence to make sure that women have opportunities to compete in a safe and fair playing field. So we're really grateful to see this bill moving through the House of Representatives.
All right, Macy Petty with Concerned Women for America. We thank you so much for being with us and sharing your insights tonight.
Up next, while political tensions shake Minneapolis, One couple is quietly changing lives on the streets, reaching the homeless with hope, food, and faith. Welcome back. Well, more fallout over that deadly shooting of a Minneapolis woman killed by an ICE officer. Several DOJ career prosecutors have now stepped down.
That's right. The New York Times reporting their decisions follow the department's refusal to investigate the ICE agent and instead investigate the widow of Renee Good. Meanwhile, clashes between federal officers and demonstrators have not died down. Agents used tear gas to disperse a crowd gathered as ICE questioned a man in Minneapolis Monday. The Department of Homeland Security says it plans to send over 2,000 ICE agents to the state. Meanwhile, Minnesota and Illinois are suing the Trump administration. They say the immigration crackdown is scaring communities and breaking the law. Both states are asking a judge to stop the operations for now. In response to Monday's lawsuit, DHS accused Minnesota officials of ignoring public safety.
Well, in the midst of the unrest in Minneapolis, there's also some light. One local couple is quietly making a difference, offering help and hope to the city's homeless, not just during the winter, but all year long. CBN's Dale Hurd brings us their story.
Yeah.
When we caught up with Monica De Laurentiis, it was still summer in Minneapolis, and she was out in her mission field doing what she does each week.
Can I pray for you for quick healing? Father, I lift up Anthony to you, Lord. And
going to homeless encampments, praying for people, giving them food, and telling them about Jesus. What is this place?
this is mostly people probably live in encampments, but right now encampments are being moved and moved and moved and moved, so they find gathering places. And so it's a group of people that are homeless. The main problem is probably mental illness combined with chemical use.
Monica and her husband Chris, both former addicts, began the Life Center 33 years ago in their home because they envisioned a more effective way to reach the homeless here.
Most miracles don't happen in a second. They take years. We saw that it didn't happen overnight or after a 6-month treatment program. We've realized that it is a long-term process to walk alongside of people, to do life with them, and to disciple people. It takes years for them to learn new thoughts, adapt new behaviors.
People like Hazel.
So before I came to the Life Center, I was actually addicted to crystal meth, and I was homeless, living in a tent.
Today, Hazel helps cook and serve 2,000 meals a week at the center. Chris and Monica say America's homeless problem continues to exist because of a generational cycle of family dysfunction.
We're dealing with people who've grown up in generational welfare, generational poverty.
They're addicted, their parents were addicted, even their grandparents were addicted.
And sometimes their mission means literally bringing an addict back to life.
This is a Narcan kit, and these are passed out all over the community because of the overdoses, but this takes it completely out of you. So sometimes when they wake up, they're pretty mad because they don't realize that they were gonna die.
The Life Center holds worship services, 12-step groups, and what they call life skills discipleship training.
Some people call us the crack church because that's where crack addicts go.
For Chris and Monica De Laurentiis, the mission field is not far away. It's all around them. People that have been abused, the drug addicted, and the hurting. Monica calls America's homeless an unreached people group living among us, ignored by many churches because she says the need can look too difficult and dangerous.
They're unreached, not for lack of churches, because there's a church on every corner, but there's a lack of desire to reach the people that we're reaching. Either lack of desire or just don't know what to do. A lot of times people think you need an ocean dividing you before it's a mission field, but there's a mission field here. I promise you, you come down here and you're going to feel like you're in another world.
Some 30,000 families have come to Christ through the Life Center. Now Minnesota's warm summer is gone, replaced by freezing winter temperatures. And although America's cities have spent millions trying to fix the homeless problem, Chris says money and programs will never be enough by themselves.
The government in Minneapolis tries, I go to their meetings. They're trying to find solutions to the drug epidemic, to the housing crisis. But the bottom line is, without a changed mind, without a transformed heart, all we can do is at best throw Band-Aids. But we have just found that Jesus works. You're right, the Holy Spirit works.
Dale Hurd, CBN News, Minneapolis.
Great story, Dale. Thank you. Well, coming up, Barbie finding new ways to bring visibility to millions. We explain when Faith Nation continues.
All right, finally tonight, a new doll from toy maker Mattel is hoping to shine a light on neurodiversity.
The new Barbie from the company's Fashionista line, designed to represent characteristics of people with autism, including an averted gaze, noise-canceling headphones, and bendable arms to allow for repetitive motions. Ellie Middleton, an ambassador for Mattel who has autism, celebrates the new doll, but says it's important to remember autistic people are diverse.
I think there's never going to be one perfect singular representation of autism, but I think the fact that she's a woman, which we've been lacking a lot of representation of autism in women, is a great thing.
Designed with help from the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, the doll is part of ongoing efforts to bring representation through play. Past dolls have included a Barbie with Down syndrome and one with type 1 diabetes. We're seeing more and more this trend of representation in toys.
Yeah, I'm sure this doll is going to be a very welcome thing for a lot of very special girls.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, that wraps us up for tonight's Faith Nation.
Have a great night.